What's happening, YouTube? This is Brian916. In this video, let's talk tools. So you guys may recall I did a tool review on these Tekton updated ratchets not too long ago. And in the video, we sort of just set them down and did like a side-by-side comparison on the upgrades that they made versus, how the old ratchets look, and just sort of compared them and went over some of the new features that they put on them. And if you recall in that video, I stated really only time will tell if these ratchets are good ratchets or not. You can't really tell if a tool is a good tool just by looking at it. You actually have to use it and use it frequently and to see if that tool is actually a worthy tool or not. So since I did that video, I've actually worked with these Tekton ratchets quite a bit. Since that video, I've done several major engine overhauls, and I use those Tekton ratchets a lot more than I normally would have, just to sort of see if I like these ratchets, if they are good ratchets, and if I can recommend these ratchets. So let's get into what I found out about these ratchets. All right, guys, so here's the three ratchets we got laid out right here. Out of all three of these ratchets, I probably use this quarter ratchet the most. However, I have used all three of these ratchets. Like I stated earlier, I've done several engine overhauls using these ratchets. Probably used them a lot more than I normally would have, just to sort of get a feel for these ratchets. And I do have an opinion about these ratchets. I'm going to go into detail some of the things I don't like about the ratchet, but I will first start off by saying I really wouldn't recommend these Tekton ratchets for professional use. So one of the biggest issues that I had with this Tekton ratchet is the flexing mechanism. This flexing mechanism made it a real challenge to work with this ratchet, especially when you need it in a flex position. And even when it wasn't in a flex position, putting the slightest bit of pressure on a fastener will force it to go backwards. So I found it kind of difficult working with this ratchet. I'm going to pull out my gear wrench flex ratchet just to sort of illustrate my point. So if I flex it in this flex position and I try to move it out of position just by moving the ratchet around, you can see that it stays in this position. Now, and if I did the same thing with my Tekton ratchet, we put it in a flex position and I do the same thing, you can see it just goes all over the place. So that was the biggest issue that I had with this ratchet. So I found this flex feature to just be way too flimsy. I was in certain situations where I used the flex feature on here, and if you got it flexed in a position like this and you are getting a bolt at an angle, well, of course you have to put some kind of pressure on it to be able to keep the socket on the fastener so that you don't round the fastener. You want to keep some tight pressure on there so that you can bust the bolt free. But I found whenever I put a little bit of pressure on it, it would just flex backwards every time. And it really made me want to go and get another ratchet that had a true locking feature on it, where I could actually lock it on there and I could put pressure on that fastener and it could bust that bolt free and really wouldn't have to worry about the ratchet moving back on me. So I found this flex feature to be somewhat flimsy, and really throughout the course of using this ratchet, it's already wearing out. I'm already getting a lot of play in this head right here, a lot more play that was in it before. Same thing with this quarter ratchet. It's getting a lot of play in it just from the little bit of use that I've used it. So I definitely don't think these ratchets will hold up
in like a heavy shop environment. I also had an issue with the forward and reverse selector getting stuck in the middle right here. And while ratcheting, it'll just jam up on me and I wouldn't be able to move it, and it'll just stay stuck right there in the middle. And I noticed I had that problem with their old ratchet. So here's an old Tekton ratchet, and you can see that this one has that same issue where it'll just stay stuck in the middle, and it'll just, on this one, it'll just keep moving and keep rotating. So I noticed that this issue happens on their ratchets quite a bit. All right, guys, well, that was my updated review on these Tekton ratchets. After having an opportunity to work with these ratchets. Unfortunately, I couldn't recommend these ratchets to any professional mechanic. They just won't hold up for you. In fact, it made the job more difficult in certain situations. So I definitely would not recommend these ratchets. That's a shame because I really thought these ratchets would be a lot better, being that Tekton really improves on their products quite a bit. They had some really flimsy pry bars with no striking caps, and then they put out some nice solid pry bars with striking caps. The screwdrivers have improved. They keep continually improving on their products, and I thought they would probably do the same with the ratchets, but unfortunately, I still don't like Tekton ratchets. They're really just not worth it. You're better off if you're looking for an inexpensive ratchet as a professional. I still think gear wrench is gonna still reign king as far as the inexpensive ratchet that a professional can use. It's gonna be definitely gear wrench, in my opinion. It's still gonna make the best inexpensive ratchet. I was hoping that Tekton would definitely be in that conversation, but it's definitely not.
Alright guys, well that was my updated opinion, my updated tool review on the newest ratchets that Tekton released. After working with these tools for a little while, I was able to give more of a realistic review on these tools. And unfortunately, these ratchets aren't the greatest ratchets, and I really don't recommend these ratchets to any professional mechanic. They just won't hold up. This is by no means a diss to Tekton at all. I still like Tekton tools very much. I think they make a good, solid, classic hand tool. I just can't figure out why the ratchets are so subpar, being that mechanics use ratchets probably more than they use wrenches. So I can't really figure out why Tekton is not selling higher quality ratchets, being that we do go to our ratchets quite a bit. With all that being said, I still definitely recommend Tekton tools. I just don't recommend their ratchets, but I definitely recommend their torque wrench. Their wrenches are good, their extensions are good. They make a pretty decent ratcheting wrench as well. So I do recommend Tekton. They got a new wrench coming out. It's basically a double open air wrench. One side of it has like a 60-degree angle, I believe, and the other side may have like a 30-degree angle for getting around obstacles. If you haven't seen those wrenches, check out this clip. So that was a pretty clever wrench design. I actually tried to order the metric set. I think they do have a metric and imperial set that you can order, but the metric set sold out really fast. So you can see they do try to improve on their products and make products that's very useful for mechanics to use. So I highly recommend Tekton tools. I just really don't recommend their ratchets. Alright guys, well thanks for watching. Before I get out of here, I want to make sure I give a shout out to all the viewers and all the subscribers out there. Also want to give a shout out to all you other YouTubers out there that upload videos in the automotive genre. Shout out to you guys. And I want to give an extra special shout out to the YouTubers that watch Brian 916 and get inspired by my videos. Well, I'm heading over here to a longtime customer. even though she's aware that I'm no longer in the repair business. I've been working on her cars for like 10 years, her and her family, so she's got a check engine light on, and she want me to at least just scan it and tell her what's going on, so she can be armed with that little bit of information if she do take it to someone else to get the actual repair done. Cause she just don't really trust anybody. So she trusts me. I never found a way to ever try to cheat my customers or anything like that, or gouge them. I never found that to be necessary. You just fix the problem and you get paid. So I'm just gonna head over here and plug in a scan tool, see what code she has. So I did a clutch on this vehicle probably about a year ago, I think. It's probably the last thing, and a tune-up. It's probably the last thing that I did on this vehicle. So her check engine light came on, so we're gonna go out here and scan it, see what's going on. All right, here we go. This little green Ford Explorer here. So let's see what's going on with this little Ford Explorer. We got the scan tool plugged in. See what kind of codes we got popping up here. Let's do a generic. So we do got a trouble code here. Read the code. Cylinder 3 misfire. Okay, so that's the only code here. Single cylinder misfire. These are usually pretty easy to pinpoint. So I'm gonna just fire it up and make sure there's no flashing check engine light. Give it a minute for the misfire to begin, and the check engine light to start flashing if it's gonna flash. Alright, so no flashing check engine light. Typically, if the check engine light is flashing, I won't really let it run too long because you can damage the catalytic converter. If you're watching this video and you do have a flashing check engine light, that basically means that your catalytic converter is being damaged, and you need to shut the engine off right away. So you never want to drive with a flashing check engine light. Alright, so let's pop the hood and see what's up. Oh, let's find cylinder 3. I think it's on that side. I did a tune-up on this thing too, I recall. So, let's see, cylinder 3 is right here. Check for spark. Ignition wire off of terminal 3 on this ignition coil, and I do recall doing a tune-up on this the same time that we did the clutch, now that I think about it. So what I'm going to do now, looks like the spark tester or the spark indicator did indicate spark. You can see the little red light flashing. So what I'm going to do is just ohms test this wire real quick and make sure that there's no high resistance in this ignition wire. So we see that there's about 6,000 ohms of resistance, which is below spec. I think for a wire this size, you want to definitely be under like 10,000 ohms. So looks like we're below spec, so let's keep hooked checking. Up the inline spark tester. A lot of times you can see if there's a miss in the ignition system by actually watching the spark right here. So let's fire it up and observe it.
I don't think it's the ignition system, but you see that spark plug down there? I'm gonna go ahead and pull that spark plug out. Just check it for a crack. Check it, make sure it's actually working. And sort of inspect that plug before we completely rule out the ignition system. Oh, here's the spark plug. Let's take a look at it. See what we can ascertain. We'll check the porcelain for cracks first. It looks pretty intact. Look at the tip here. Looks like a pretty healthy spark plug. But let's check it and make sure it's actually sparking. Alright, so how I'm going to check this is kind of a crude way, but I'm limited in what I actually have here with me. And I don't think there's a misfire monitor on this particular Ford. I searched through my scan tool, couldn't find a misfire monitor. So, like I said, it's kind of a crude way to check, but it is 100% accurate in terms of checking whether or not the spark plug works. So this is a spark plug that's in cylinder 3, and we got it hooked up to the ignition coil, and I'm gonna ground it right here at the tip, and we can actually visibly see if it's sparking. One thing I want to mention too, when testing spark plugs, you want to make sure that the spark is actually going in between the gap. So you want to make sure that the spark is actually inside the electrode tip and this little ground here. Alright guys, so I may have figured out what's going on here inadvertently. Since I got that spark plug out, I decided I'll check the compression, so I unplugged the ignition coil here and went here to unplug the fuel injector for cylinder 3 so I could throw a gauge in there real quick, and connector for the injector came off way too easy. So I came over here to, what is it, cylinder 2, to see if this one will come off just as easy, and it didn't. So I think the connector was on, but it may have not been pushed all the way down until it clicked. So I'm gonna throw a gauge in there anyway, and just to see, but I think that might have been the issue, but we'll check the compression anyway. All right guys, so I checked the compression a couple times. Looks like we got about, let's see, 150, 170. It looks like we got about 170. I don't have the specs with me, but that seems like that's pretty good. I mean, I could compare it to another cylinder while I'm out here, but being that I found that injector that wasn't really plugged in really good, I'm gonna slip that on and see if the problem actually goes away. Here's the connector that I actually took off. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull this coil pack off. There's just 4 bolts right here, so it's pretty easy, and just sort of just move it out the way a bit, and then make sure I'm able to put the injector on properly, or check the injector itself because I can't see it, and make sure there's no damage or anything to it. Alright, so I'll move this coil out the way so I can get a good look at this injector. All the tabs are on it. Don't look broke. The wire looks okay. Just think it wasn't on all the way. So I kind of got it and just sort of reached under there like this and just sort of pulled it off. Well, I'm going to push this back on all the way and make sure it clicks. Alright, so yeah, see, I can't just pull it back off without actually releasing the tab now. See, before I was able to just pull it off without releasing the tab. So, okay, so what I'm going to do next is actually take a quick listen at this injector and see if I can hear the solenoid inside the injector working. So that'll be my next step. Alright, so let's take a listen. Move this stuff out the way a bit.
next one. Compare it to the next one. This one kind of sounds worse than the other two. And that's not even the cylinder in question. Okay, so I got the coil back bolted down. Now that I reach under here, I'm not able to just slide this connector off. It's actually fastened and clicked onto the tab now. But before I get too happy, I'm thinking the computer should have set open circuit code for the injector. So I'm gonna unplug one injector, run the engine, and see if I actually get a misfire code or an open circuit code for the injector. So, all right, so cylinder 2 injector wire is off. So let's see if we get an open circuit code or if we get a misfire. All right, let's see if we get a open injector circuit code or if there's a misfire code, because then I can confirm whether or not cylinder 3 that was our actual misfire or not. Let's see, so let's go to read codes. We know about cylinder 3, I haven't erased that code yet. So yeah, cylinder 2 is the injector I unplugged, so the computer just sets a misfire code and there's no specific injector open circuit code. So you get used to working on like more modern cars. This is an older Ford Explorer. I forget what year it is, but it is an older vehicle. So I think that was pretty much just a problem. So let's go ahead and plug back in our cylinder 2 connector and clear all the codes out, and that may have been it. All right, so let's just plug in our number 2. All right, got it plugged in. Now let's go fire it up, clear the codes. Erase these codes. Okay. All right, let's get out of here. You see our check engine light went off. Actually seems to be running a little better too. All right, guys, well, that's it. I think that pretty much was it. Just that injector connector wasn't on securely. So if you guys doing repairs and you plugging in your connectors, make sure you push them down all the way so you don't get an unwanted issue. So I think that was pretty much it. We see the compression was good. We had about 170. So I don't think there's anything going on internally with this engine. As far as vacuum leaks go, I don't hear any vacuum hissing, any vacuum leaks. It sounds pretty good. Typically a vacuum leak will affect more than one cylinder, and we know we had just a single cylinder misfire. I don't know what the fuel pressure is, but again, typically weak fuel pressure will affect more than just one cylinder, and we know we only had a single cylinder misfire, and we had spark coming from that coil. We actually visibly tested it with the spark tester, the inline tester. We also pulled the spark plug out, checked the spark plug for cracks, made sure the spark plug is actually working as it should. So everything seemed to be okay. I think it was just that one fuel injector with the connector off. So I'll tell the customer to keep an eye on it. If any other issues come back up, I'll have her give me a call, but I think that pretty much does it. So thanks for tuning in, guys. This is Brian 916. See you on the next one.